Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Illustration Department podcast. My name is Giuseppe Castellano. In this podcast, I talk to folks in illustration, graphic design, publishing, animation, and other creative fields about their work, the lessons they've learned, and the bumps and bruises they've experienced along the way. At the end of each month, I am sharing an episode from the archive. Here's my chat with Brian Pinkney, which was originally published in August of 2023. It's a good one, folks. I hope you enjoy it. So you came from an artistic family, to say the absolute least. But as I understand it, your parents didn't pressure you to become an artist.
That is true. My parents didn't pressure me to be an artist. I think if anything, they saw making art as so normal that as a family, we just did it all the time. You know, it was like play. My dad was always playing in a studio that was in the house. So I played by making art as well as making toys and other things growing up.
Did your dad use you and your siblings as models?
Oh, all the time. Yeah. Except for my younger brother who wouldn't follow instructions. So he only modeled for one book. I modeled for about 20.
Did you enjoy doing that?
You know, I did. And I think I did because it was, we were playing dress up all the time. My father was always dressing us up as characters. And I saw his process. You know, like I really just saw how he used us for the characters in the book. Yeah. And so that was pretty cool, seeing the action of, modeling, him taking photographs and drawing from the photographs, and then the artwork coming out.
Was there a moment in which you said to your father, Jerry, I want to be a commercial artist?
And I said more like, Dad, like, what do I do next?
He's like, who's Jerry?
Well, I was Jerry, by the way. My name was Jerry Pinkney for the longest time until I published my first book. And people were getting me confused with my dad. So my mother was like, I think you have to drop Jerry and just go with Brian, which is my middle name.
I didn't know that.
I know. A lot of people don't. But if you look at my first books, it was J. Brian Pinkney.
Are you just Jerry or something? Are you Jerry Jr.?
No. And it's interesting that my father's, book, his autobiography is called Just Jerry.
Yeah. Because
he actually didn't have a middle name.
No.
Because his mother said, just Jerry is enough. He's going to make something of himself one day. In my case, I was Jerry Brian Pinkney. So I would have to make something of myself using the name Brian.
Right. Does that officially make you a junior or not? Since you don't.
No. It would have to be the exact same name. Like if I was Jerry Pinkney, it would be Jerry Pinkney Jr.
I'm a junior. My dad's name is Giuseppe.
Oh.
Like art wasn't really, it wasn't discouraged, but it wasn't really encouraged. It was just, you can draw? Yeah, okay, go ahead and draw. Here's some supplies. And especially my mother. My mother was really supportive about that, signing me up for
I think
art
if my dad
and
had,
stuff.
Yeah, and again, I think if my dad had told me to draw or tried to make me draw, I would do like all kids do. I'd run the other way.
Right. Do you think that you would have gone another way? Totally another way?
No, I behaved. I was the child that always did what they wanted me to do. That's why I got the model for all the books. So yeah, I probably would have. Yeah. Right.
I know you're familiar with this story, but some listeners may not be. When your father was small, his father, your grandfather, what was your grandfather's name?
His name was James.
James. So James allowed Jerry to draw on his bedroom wall. And when there was no room left, your grandfather, James, painted the wall white. And your dad at first thought, oh, crap, I'm in trouble. But in fact, your grandfather, being kind of awesome, was giving your father a fresh canvas.
Yes.
One of my regrets as a parent, my kids are now teenagers, but one of my regrets was I didn't appreciate the wall drawings as much as I should have. My kids did the same thing. All kids do the same thing. Mm-hmm. And at first I was not upset, just sort of like, oh man, don't do that. We have paper for that. And then quickly wiping it off. I should have thought for a minute, like, wait a minute. This is there.
And I could photograph it.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I regret not doing that.
So I don't think we were allowed to draw on the walls. But lucky for me, my dad said I had free reign at night to go into his drawer flat files with all his expensive watercolor paper and take any sheet of paper that was too small for him to actually use for like a book. So I got like real art supplies to play with. So who needed a wall?
Yep. Yeah. I shouldn't have done that. It just was like, oh God, because we're exhausted. We're parents of 3 young kids, and we're just kind of going, just trying to keep things in order as best we can, and wiping those drawings off the wall. And that was a bad move. So young parents out there listening, if your kids are drawing on the walls, at the very least, take pictures, and even better, encourage that, because it's just a wall. It can come off. It's going to be okay.
Take a picture and paint it over, and they get a new canvas, and you have documentation.
After earning a Bachelor of Fine Arts in 1983 from what was then called the Philadelphia College of Art, now it's University of the Arts, what were your first months or years like as an illustrator? I
got a book project right away, my senior year in college, which was pretty cool. Right. It was called The Storyteller, and it was like a local author who went to the University of Arts, Philadelphia College of Art, looking for an artist to illustrate it. He selected me. It was self-published, but I really got to lay out a book, all the ways that I'd learned that my father did, tracing paper and sketches and going to finishes. The book is like, but that's okay. It was my first book. Then I moved back, and I started, I think, doing posters for like the Walnut Street Theater in Philadelphia. Yeah. Which was nice. I guess the university set that up where they had people come in who were looking for illustrators. So I got to illustrate right away. Then I moved back home, where I had a studio in my bedroom, which was like above my father's studio in New York, where my parents live now. That was a combination of playing the drums all day long and working on my artwork in the evening, and, getting a job at the Penny Saver just to earn money. Yes. And then quitting once I got like a little freelance jobs, and then getting a job at an art supply store, and then quitting when I'd get like a freelance job. And eventually, I think after a year, I moved to New York City, where I got a job as an art assistant at Field and Stream magazine, interestingly enough. And that was great because it meant I was making enough money to get an apartment in New York City and then work on my freelance stuff at night. So I always encourage young artists, just make money however you can, and then quit the job when you get a freelance project, because you can always get another job at an art supply store somewhere, Right. And those were my early days. And then I remember quitting that job after about a year and a half and working as an art teacher in Harlem in an after school program, teaching kids art, and trying to get publishing work, editorial work on my own, and balancing out the freelance work with the teaching until I think I started getting my first picture book, The Boy and the Ghost, and went back to get my master's. That's what it was, at SVA. And that kind of really turned things around for me. And then I became just a freelance illustrator.
So, between earning your undergraduate degree and getting your master's was in 1990. So that's 7 years of basically doing what you just explained.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did
your father early on review your portfolio?
Yes, he did. And it's interesting. Early on, my dad everything was just keep going. You're amazing. Keep going. He would suggest I take my artwork to other illustrators, friends of his, like Alan Cober. I remember looking at my portfolio and really, and said, you have 3 different styles here. Which way do you want to work? Or, that's fine, but just be aware of that. When you're taking your portfolio around, people
just casually, it's Alan Cober, for God's sake. Okay. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, just casually, it's Alan Cober, right? And trying to think of who else. Him primarily, because he lived not far from us. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yep. And that was great because it was easier hearing it from him than my dad, being that, he was my dad.
Yeah. Did your dad have I'm sure your dad wasn't just like completely, this is amazing, everything you do is amazing. I'm sure he was fair and was like, yeah, you're amazing, you're my son, you're talented, and I love you. Also, you need to work on your compositions.
Nope.
Really?
He was just very encouraging. Yeah. Wow. Which was phenomenal. It wasn't, what he would say to me was, what do you need from me?
Yep.
And I would say, just keep telling me everything is amazing, so I just keep going. I knew myself, I needed encouragement. I had a lot of fire, a lot of ambition. I think later on, once I started getting projects, the critiques became more specific, but in a very gentle way. He would say if you really want that nose to be more 3-dimensional, add a little shadow underneath it.
Right.
Because there's always a little light on the top of the nose. There'd be more specific things like that. And that was extremely helpful. Although normally he would say, I would come back 3 months later and be like, Dad, I just figured out something. If you put a little shadow underneath the nose, it really becomes 3-dimensional. And he would say, I told you that 3 months ago.
Typical father-son dynamic there, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a ton of stuff I'm learning now as a 46-year-old dad of 3 teenagers that I'm sure my dad told me about when I was in my 20s and teens and 30s. And it's you just have to learn it for yourself to lock it in. Yeah. You hear it, but it's not locked in.
Or I see, but times are different now.
Yeah.
Kids are different than they were,
Brian.
And they would just roll their eyes.
Yeah. Oh, well, I keep telling my parents any chance I get, you have no idea how easy it was for you guys raising us in the 80s. It's so much more difficult now, but whatever. It's different. I had a little bit of a different experience with it. I mean, my dad wasn't a professional artist. He wanted to be an artist early on, but it, went another way for him because he was pressured to not be an artist by his father. But the point is, as I was kind of discovering, myself as an artist and figuring out in high school, like, I think this is what I do. I think this is what I'm going to do. I remember doing a portrait of my sister. And at the time, I thought it was a pretty great portrait. And there's still parts of it that I really love. And there's some brushstrokes in there that I wouldn't even consider putting on canvas today. And I don't even know how I did it. I look at it and going like, that's great. I want to paint like that now. And how did I do that? And the answer is completely being naive about the whole process. Just like, I don't know, put this brush in pigment and put it on the canvas. I don't know what I'm doing. And that's where that came from. So anyway, the portrait I thought was good. It's not, but whatever. And so I showed it to my dad, and his first question was, who's that? 2 words floored me. And, I got back up and I'm like, all right, I guess I got to keep painting. I got to keep working on this. Because that's the whole deal for me anyway, was I want to impress my father. I mean, that is not a novel approach from a son to a father, is, wanting to impress them. And that's very much what I wanted to do when I was that age. Did any of that work its way into your relationship with your father?
Oh, definitely. I mean, if I wanted to visit my dad, because he was in a studio, whatever, 16, 18 hours a day, draw a picture. And then my mom would be like, that's amazing. Go show it to your dad, And so we bonded over artwork, and then I get to watch what he was doing. And, as we got older, it would be more like, what are you working on? What are you working on? We would share things. And I remember him once drawing a horse from like a bird's eye view, and he was having a problem with the legs. And I looked at it and I said, can I show you something? And I put a piece of tracing paper over it and just like sketched really quickly, where the other leg was supposed to go. Yeah. And he was like, wow, that was really helpful, But I got that from him because he would do that with me. He'd put a sheet of tracing paper over what I had drawn and show me how to put the little shadow under the nose or whatever it was.
The apprentice becomes the master.
We were like co-searchers in the art world and, sharing each other's art books.
So the record for the most Caldecott wins, including medals and honors together, is 9.
Right.
And that's held by Marcia Brown. Marie Sendak is second with 8. Marie Hall-Etz has 6. Podcast guest David Wiesner has 6, and your father has 6.
Yes.
You have some catching up to do. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. I'm sorry. I'm kidding.
No, it was funny when you said that. I was like, should I care about that stuff? I really don't care about it. I mean, there was a time when I really cared about.
I was going to ask you that,
2
but I deleted
Caldecott
that
honors,
question.
and it's like, when am I going to win the next one? And now it's like, I'm enjoying my life. I'm making artwork. I love what I'm doing, and I don't focus on that. And I'm not just saying that; it's actually true.
No,
I think, But for a lot of people, that's very important.
For sure.
I think that's it was very important for my dad. And so I was so proud of him when he won the actual Caldecott, because he had won the 5 honors.
Yeah, right.
It's like that desire to have that kind of recognition is, goes really deep, I think. For me, I think I had gotten so much recognition from my dad that I don't feel like I needed it from people out there on the Caldecott community. I didn't say that.
Yeah.
I would like it. Or another one.
Brian, you seem to be under the delusion that people who choose the Caldecott listen to this podcast, and I'm here to tell you that's probably unlikely.
Well, on a rare chance that they happen to tune in, or someone tells them what I said.
Right. Well, when did you learn that your father lived with dyslexia?
Years after he had learned. So it may have been only about 20 years ago.
Right.
Like, he really didn't know. He knew he was always making accommodations for himself. Like, if he was on a stamp advisory committee, he would say, they would have to have everything printed out ahead of time.
Yeah.
That he couldn't read it on email, and that he knew he had to reread things over and over again. What's fascinating about it is I didn't realize I was dyslexic until we found out both our children were dyslexic, and we're in the evaluation, and I'm saying, Dr. Amy, thank you so much for this. And my wife gives me this really dirty look. She says, that's not her name. And she looks at me and says, that's a form of dyslexia also. Remember people's names. So I was like, oh, okay. Wow. And then the kids are getting evaluated, and I'm looking at their answers on the test. It's like, I spell elephant 5 different ways also, like my daughter. So it's like, oh, but what I didn't have that my dad had was how it affected his self-esteem when he was growing up.
Right.
And I think it will maybe because my parents were they knew that I thought differently than other people and learned differently, that, it didn't affect me. It was more when my wife pointed it out that I was like, oh, I do that. And, so it's fascinating, that, we weren't diagnosed when I was, I'm 61 now. So when I was a kid, I wasn't diagnosed with dyslexia. I remember they put me in the special room with the little projector so I would learn how to read faster, that I read slower than other people.
Right.
But I caught up eventually.
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
to say the least. The point I'm trying to make here is I wonder if the Caldecott wins, and really any other major honor that your father received, not justified, but sort of solidified his journey from, he was selling drawings when he was 11 or 12 or something. He was using art as a way of combating the bullying and combating the feeling of his outsider, this outsider feeling that he had.
Yeah.
I just wonder if that was it.
So definitely the Caldecott wins, were such an affirmation, of everything that he had done.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
As an interesting side note, 3 of the top 5 winners are women for the Caldecott. I didn't know that until yesterday.
I didn't know that either, actually.
I kind of knew it. I kind of knew who the Caldecott winners were, but I didn't. And when I added it all up, I was like, wait a second.
Yeah.
This podcast is produced by the Illustration Department, a global leader in online education for illustrators. Visit illustrationdept.com for offerings like mentorships and portfolio reviews, testimonials, our alumni showcase, our best-selling Substack, and more. That's illustrationdept.com. And now, back to our conversation. Speaking of Caldecott, you've earned multiple Caldecott honors. In all seriousness, congratulations. I'm joking about the catching up thing. The first one was in 96 with The Faithful Friend, and the second one was in 99 with Duke Ellington, written by Andrea Davis Pinkney, who you may know. You've also earned multiple Coretta Scott King honors and many other accolades. Does being honored as much as you have shift your approach to art making, for better or worse?
I think what it did for me is it gave me the permission to keep growing and changing. And that was for better. Yeah. It almost was like I was working in Scratchboard at the time, and I switched from another medium for many other reasons, but it was like, okay, keep doing what you're doing as an artist, not keep making the way you were making, but just keep, pursuing, I call it wandering and pondering, and just, trying to, how do I express myself visually in the next way that feels natural for me and my growth. So I think it gave me permission to continue doing that.
That's interesting. Because you felt that you had you had some leeway, like you could try a few things.
Right. And publishers weren't looking for me and offering me things, so publishers were looking for things for me and offering me things, and things that were very different sometimes.
How many books have you and Andrea worked on together?
That's a good question, because we keep throwing numbers out there and we don't really count. I think we're up to 55-ish.
Mm-hmm. The two of you continue a long celebrated tradition of husband and wife teams in children's books. Ingri and Edgar Dulaire, mm-hmm. George and Doris Hauman, Margret and Hans
mm-hmm.
Ray, Alice and Martin Provensen, Joe and Beth Krush, Leo and Diane Dillon. Mm-hmm. How many total books have you created at this point on your own as an illustrator and writer?
I don't know. I didn't count them. That's when I was talking to James Ransome the other day at a conference, and he knew how many he had. He had them all on his website. I was like, I probably should count them. I remember being up around 65 at one point. So maybe around there. 70.
You don't update your website very often, do you?
No, I don't. And my Instagram, not at all. I think on 2 different occasions I posted things. Mm-hmm. And people still seem to follow it, but I do need to update that also.
See, there's 2 good points to be made there. One of them is, if you were someone that I was mentoring or teaching, I would absolutely say, what are you doing? You have to update your website. I think it says copyright protected 2012 or something. It's been a while. Yeah. But you don't, and of course it's fine. And then I would also say to illustrators, you don't have to post every day. In fact, you shouldn't be posting every day on social media. That's just crazy. I think it's a waste of time, and all you're doing is just like you're watering down your post, the value of your post, by posting all the time. So post like once a week or once every other week. The value of your post increase, and you don't have to worry about it as much. That's something that I would recommend, or once a month or something. But you don't post very much, and it's because
I'm working on books.
Well, that's the thing. So at what point in an illustrator's career does any of that good advice not matter?
I think it probably always matters now. I think it may be because of where I'm at in my career, right? That I don't have the muscle to post. So I'm going to have to hire somebody to do it again, which is what I did before. And I have other priorities, it seems, and work's flowing in. Now, it would be great to promote my books, I'm sure, and I probably will. And my wife posts very, very often. Yeah. So I'm like, why don't you post my new book since you already have followers,
I mean, it's not a bad question. I guess the point is, like, to what end? I mean, if you're going to start posting, why? Why would you start posting? What does it matter?
Because people like you ask me. And sometimes friends say, oh, can I follow you on Instagram? And I go, yeah, can, but it's not up to date. So, and I think publishers would like it also because it helps them with marketing the book. So that would be the reason why I would do it. Yeah. It wouldn't be so much even for marketing myself. It would be to help market my books.
I know. But I guess I'm thinking of that point in an illustrator's career where you're at that tipping point. You go over that tipping point where it's like, well, I don't have to do any of that stuff anymore. I've like you said, I've worked over the decades to reach a point where publishers are coming to me. My books are doing well. I'm getting these awards. And so I'm at a place where I feel good. I feel comfortable with what I'm doing and, the amount of money I'm making, how I'm supporting my family, et cetera, et cetera. So some of that can go by the wayside.
Right. And my father started posting a lot because he was interested in sharing his process.
That's another good reason.
Yeah, which is a very good reason because there's things that I'm doing that people are like, why aren't you putting that on Instagram? People don't realize, like this last book that I finished of my dad, the whole process of how I did it. At one point, my brother has taken over my dad's Instagram account. He's like, I want you to take clips of how you did it, how you used his drawings and put them on the light box and put watercolor paper on top of it and actually show, how the process was done.
Right. Are you talking about Just Jerry or Walk in the Woods?
Walk in the Woods. Yeah. So the book Walk in the Woods is a very, interesting, organic way of kind of figuring out how to, finish that book. I have many, many, many underpaintings and sketches. I could simulate it, which is my intention at some point, and I have for conferences.
Right. But doing all of that is gonna cut into your, online dancing and online yoga and your exercises and your time with your family and your time with your work and all of that stuff. So when are you going to do it?
Yeah, I just have to it becomes another little performance that I do in between these things. It's like set up the camera, turn off the yoga class, put on your little painting shirt and do it, which is what I do. I mean, I have done it for school visits and, some other online platforms that show the process, which will be coming out when the book is published. Yeah. So I just have to weave it in.
Yeah. I know each book has its own life, its own personality, its own needs, like our children. But is there a common denominator with all of your books? Maybe something beneath the surface of the page?
Yes. They're all autobiographical, I would say. And even when I pick up a book and I go, well, this one isn't. It's like, oh, it's about a little boy who da-da-da-da. I was like, yeah, that's me. So what about this new one I'm working about the boy who's likes to turn his blanket into different animals. And, he has a little baby brother who was born, who he's a little jealous of. Oh, yeah, that's me also. So, yeah. I mean, again, there are books that come my way that aren't, like I did a book about, it's called The Day of Delight about, Ethiopian Jews, which I didn't have a relationship with. Yet I found my way in more graphically with that book. How do I want to render them? What's the progression of my technique that I want to use to bring that book to life? Mm-hmm. So that became more about, the materials and the art.
Speaking of the materials and the art, I read that you're not going digital. Haven't yet, anyway.
I mean, Walk in the Woods needed a digital element, and I Googled digital art. I downloaded some Photoshop, and I watched a little 8-year-old try to show me how to do it on YouTube. And I thought, you know what? My niece knows how to do this. I'm going to call her up, Charnelle, Pinkney Barlow, who went to SVA like I did. And I thought, we'll just send her the scans and she'll be the third collaborator, on A Walk in the Woods. And I had her do it. And I thought, no, I don't. I need, and maybe this is what you were talking about. You're talking about my yoga practice, my dance practice. I need to feel. I need to touch. Yeah. It's not just visual when I'm making artwork. It's somatic. So I need a paintbrush and paint. And I can say it's the way I learned how to draw, but I think it's also the way I see. It has to come through my arm in a way. And I think even on the iPad, I bought the big one and tried to sketch on that. And I was throwing my shoulder out, trying to make my wrist simulate what my arm does, with a brush and watercolor and paper. And it just didn't work. So, yep, I'm going to stay with traditional. Yeah, well, you're
torpedoing your career, Brian. I mean, I guess it was a nice run. But apparently digital is what everyone's doing these days. So,
yeah.
Oh well. Yeah.
I'll move into something else. Yeah. Well, again, and this is when I hired the assistant to do it.
Yeah. Well. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you've heard this batted around conferences and stuff, where this whole idea of you have to go digital, you got to go digital. Everyone's going digital. It's such bull crap. It's so wrong. It's not true, and yet people keep saying it. It's just not true.
Yeah,
you're a great example of that. And guess what else you're a great example of? You don't work in just one specific way,
right?
And it seems to work for you.
It does work for me, and different artists work differently. And I remember I had friends that I graduated with undergraduate, and they had a style, and they came out and they kept doing that style, and that's them. That's them. I had 4 different styles when I think I mentioned that earlier in the podcast. My portfolio had 3 or 4 different styles, and people are saying, you got to decide which one you want to do. And I was like, I don't know. I want to do this for that, and that for that.
Exactly.
And it ended up working out that it's working out. I mean, there was the run with Scratchboard, which was consistent for 10 years. And then it's like, no, I want to go back to watercolor and brush.
Yeah. And it's okay to do that. I mean, your own father said, making pictures is similar to making music. There are so many instruments and so many tunes that the possibilities for how you play are truly limitless. I love that quote. It flies in the face of this notion that illustrators have to be the one thing or work in the one way. It's this idea that making art is formulaic. It isn't, not entirely. It's feeling, like you were saying, it's feeling more than anything. And it can be digital.
Yep.
I'm not saying like with digital art, there is no feeling. Well, with digital, it's not just simply about the medium. It's about how you create the art.
Yeah. And people brought up making art digitally. That's how they sense. That's how they feel.
Right.
I was brought up making on paper. That's how I sense. That's how I feel.
Exactly.
And it didn't. That part didn't shift. So again, that could be a different instrument that I could take up one day, and I'll never say never. But right now, it doesn't seem to be the case.
I mean, your dad's comparing art making to music. I like to compare an illustrator's career to gardening. You sort of plant seeds, you tend to it, you wait, you got to be patient, you got to, make good choices with where you're placing these seeds and work toward making it grow and reaping the benefits from it. Do you think of visual art in non-visual art ways?
Yes.
How so?
I think of it as gardening also.
Nice.
And it's like, and I've had this with, publishers who are like, we want to see what you're working on. And I was like, I can't show it to you yet. They're like, we want to make sure you're going in the right direction. I was like, there's only one direction. I can't dig it up and show you that the seed is about to, pop open. But I can trust that the years of gardening, that the technique that I'm using is going to produce results. Yeah. I think I was working on a book once, and I said to, again, the editor, they wanted to see what I was working on. I was like, it's going to take about 9 months. And they're like, well, we want to see what you're working on. I was like, this is like the baby in the belly. You can't pull the baby out. Month number 3. But I can show you a sonogram. So I took a video of all the art laying on the floor in my studio. I said,
there it is.
There it is. This is an idea where it's at right now. And I'm just one of those artists that I don't miss deadlines. And I can truly say that because I've been doing it for so long. It's just inherent in my nature. I say it's become a Virgo. I don't know what it is, but I know how long it takes things to brew and to bake. And which isn't saying things about artists that need to extend the deadline oftentimes or don't know how long it takes. That's just their process. But for my process, I can pretty much predict when something is going to ripen that I illustrate. If it's something that I write, I have no idea how long it's going to take. It can take me 4 years. It can take me 8 years. It can take me 15 years. So I'm always, writing projects and sketching them while I'm working on finishes for other books.
Right. Do you have your work critiqued now by either Andrea or, friends of yours, or are you at a point in your career where you're feeling, I mean, you said you're turning 61. At that point, can we look forward to, I'm not 61, I'm 46, but can I look forward to, like, in my 60s, that's the decade where you go, you know what, I'm good. I don't need anybody's advice anymore. I'm good with where I'm going with my work.
I'm always showing things to Andrea, and again, she's a publisher and has an amazing eye for looking at art and knowing what I'm doing. I was always showing things to my father when he was around. So that's only been, a couple of years that I haven't been doing that. And I have friends, who are fine artists and musicians who I can show things to. Yeah. So I'm constantly doing that. Not so much because I think I need the critique as much as I want to share what it is I'm doing. And knowing through that sharing, I'm going to learn.
When I first learned of your dad, it was in my first months at Penguin. I was an art director, and I walked into another art director's office, and I saw a bunch of drawings. And I wish I could, I guess I timed it. It was 2011. So if I timed it, I probably could guess which book it was that your dad was working on. Mm-hmm. But I swear it looked, I think it was on tracing paper. It was a bunch of like red ink or red pencil. It was definitely red.
A brown. I think that's when he started working with a brown, like a very warm brown. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And these drawings that reminded me a lot, and this is going to sound hyperbolic, but it just, the first person that came to mind when I was looking at those drawings was Michelangelo. His sketches. If you looked at his sketches, those like really
I thought you were going to say Da Vinci.
Or Da Vinci.
Because he worked also in like a ochre color.
Yeah.
pen.
But just that Renaissance, that classic Renaissance quick drawing technique of getting the forms down, getting the gestures down. Yeah. And I said, whose work is this? And the art director said, that's Jerry Pinkney. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you a story similar to this. I have another book that I'm going to complete of his. It takes place in Africa. He did the dummy like, I don't know, it's like 8x8 or even smaller, 7x7. Mm-hmm. And there are scenes with bird's eye view of like 100 animals going across the prairie and ants.
You're like thanks, Dad.
100 ants. But he literally did this 7x7. And I go, I don't even know how he could see that small. And he worked really quickly. And I thought, okay, I'm going to have to redo these drawings because, they're going to need work. I blew them up like, I don't know, 400%. So they're like now 26 by whatever, 20. So I can see, and it's like, they're magical. The information he got with just those quick strokes is enough. It's expressive and it's stronger than anything I could do if I tried to redo it, and it'll be the last book that has his original drawing, as the line. And then I'll do the watercolor part, similar to Walk in the Woods, and a little different at the same time.
Do we have a title yet?
The Littlest Drop is the title of that book.
Do you know when it's publishing?
I know the art's due about a year.
Wait, the art's due in a year?
In about a year, yeah.
2025 it'll come out?
Yeah, 2025, definitely. Yeah. I'm pretty sure I told them that, yeah.
I just noticed the time. I would love to keep talking to you, but I want to make sure I'm respectful of your time here. We have listeners who are illustrators, of course, and I ask a similar question at the end of every episode. I'm going to ask you the same question, but I'm going to turn it a little bit. I'm going to ask you, and then I'm going to ask you what you think your father would say. So first you, what would you like to share with the illustrators listening? What's one piece of advice or just one thing that you would love for them to know as they go on their artistic journeys?
I think it's something around what we were talking about, this idea that there's a spark that we had when we were kids that we wanted to make artwork. When you're talking about that portrait you made of your sister, and that feeling that you got that it was amazing before, critiques, that really find ways to connect with that initial spark to make art. Because that's the thing I think that powers us on. Not so much all the criticisms and the critiques and the advice people give us, but that original spark that we had to make art as a child. Yeah. As every age we get to, what is it? What is that original spark, and how do we reconnect with that?
And what do you think your father would say if I asked him the same question?
He would say it as well, but I think he would focus on the drawing, making the marks, reconnect with that joy of making marks on a paper. And that feeling of, accomplishment or satisfaction, and continue drawing. Pencil, pen, digitally, whatever it is that brings you joy.
If you find value in this podcast, consider becoming a patron. In return, you can access bonus episodes, receive invitations to our Art Directors After Hours series, and get a 10% off discount code for all ID offerings. Become a patron by visiting patreon.com/illustrationdept. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.